Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello to all financial management students. A very warm welcome to my session from zero to FM Hero. From zero to FM Hero. Students, if you really wanted to conquer your upcoming financial management exam, you have to watch this video very carefully and obey all the instructions accordingly. In this session, I will guide you on the most effective ways to practice your FM exam material, which means quality practice. So let's start how you become hero for your upcoming financial management exam. With this session, considering the quality practice, that's definitely become the path towards the success of your exam. I will cover 2 points here. Number one, effective practice strategy. I will guide you how to develop the strategy that's called effective practice strategy. So number one, I will guide you the financial management exam. It's not about the road learning. Nothing here to learn anything. It's about go beyond memorization. You don't need to learn anything. You have to understand the concept, number one. So we will cover first this point. Number two, your exam paper, it's very diversified because examiner has a margin to ask anything anywhere in the syllabus in a variety of aspects. Because section A, 15 questions. Section B, 3 OTQs, each have 5 questions. That means another 15 questions. So here is the 30 questions. Then section C, multi requirements. For example, if 3 or 4 requirements for each 25 marks, each 20 marks question. So average 3 to 4 requirements multiplied by 2, 7 to 8 requirements. So during examination, you will face approximately 38 questions. So you have to practice with diversity. Do practice with multi-syllabus areas. Number 3, with this session, I will focus upon that the subject is not about knowledge, but application of the knowledge. And very important point. Once you attempt the question, you have to seek the feedback. So feedback means whenever you refer the solution, so that is your feedback. How to evaluate your answer, how to compare your answer, that's very much important. So effective practice strategy, number one, it's nothing about to learn. It's about diversity for practice. It's about knowledge application. It's about feedback all of your questions. Further, with this session, we will cover the marking schemes, because you people must have to know that whatever you attempt the exam, either calculation and theory, must be according to the marking scheme. Whatever you write, whatever you calculate, that should be parallel with marking schemes. Avoid unnecessary drafting, avoid unnecessary working. Be relevant. All of your working and draft must be relevant according to the marks. If you are attempting the question for theory or calculation which don't have any marks, so you are actually wasting your time and in fact pressurizing towards the other question, and maybe possible that at the end of the 3 hours you will not be able to complete your question. So I will emphasize the marking scheme with this session as well. Diagnosis of examiner report. With this session, we will diagnose examiner report because we have to understand the psychology of the examiner. We have to understand the expectation of the examiner. So we will diagnose the examiner report here. Further, one thing is past paper practice, but another important point, practice with exam conditions. Do attempt question as much as possible with exam conditions, especially for time management, especially comparing with the marking schemes. For example, take out one CRQ of 20 marks question and assuming you are sitting in the examination hall. So what you should do, number one, open the CBE format. Don't attempt manually. Number two, avoid distractions. Switch off your cell phone, assuming you are sitting in the examination hall. Number three, do your best for calculation and theory. Do your best for calculation, theory both. For example, for 20 marks question, 20 multiplied by 1.8 minutes for each mark is equal to 36 minutes. Do your best for 36 minutes. At the end of the 36 minutes, if you will not be able to complete your question, you're just able to complete 16 marks question. Don't worry, don't take stress. This is not exam. But before the exam, you are practicing. That's a good thing. So if you are not able to attempt full question, just attempt 16 marks, take 3 to 4 more minutes and complete your question. And then compare your answer accordingly. That's called exam conditions. And must have to attempt at least 2 mock exams with exam conditions. Refer the model answer. That's very much important to compare your answers. How to compare your answer with the model, I will guide you here. So, number one, with this session, effective practice strategy, that's very important things to cover. I will cover most of the things with this session about the effective practice strategy. Number two, you have to focus, very much important. Before the exam, you make sure that you are investing your time for revision and practicing with balanced approach. Balance, sir, what is the meaning of balance? Students, at least 50% of the exam you will face the theory and 50% for calculation. So you have to invest your time before exam for practicing, revision with the same proportion. If any of the student invest 80% of the time calculation, 20% theory, and go for the examination hall, definitely at the point of exam you will bounce back, because you will face the exam of 50% theory based on the 5 semester exams, or in fact 5 or 6 years paper exams. So number one, you have to invest your time with this equal proportion. That's cover the theory and calculation. Do remember, either section A, either section B or section C. Collectively examine 50-55% theory, 45 to 50% calculation. So do invest in same manner. Practice both type questions, theory calculation with section A, B and C, and then integrate them. Once you integrate the things, once you realize the point and start practice and then integrate them, you will observe your performance. Your confidence will automatically build up. With this session, I will also provide guidance related to the balance approach. So let's start the depth of the session. Students, the sequence of the session that I will conduct here. The sequence is, first I will cover the section C, one question of section C, then section A type question, then section B type question. Source material, the most recent resource available from ACCA, that's March June 24 CRQ questions. And number 2, March June 24 section A, section B type question from examiner report. So I will use the most recent resource available from the ACCA. Come on. First, the first sequence is section C. What's mentioned here? A very important quote here. If you really wanted to conquer some milestones in your life, first of all, any human being, either male or female, the quote here, man conquers the world by conquering himself. Any human being, either male or female, man conquers the world by conquering himself. So let's start about the section C. First, I will cover some key points related to section C, the key important points. Then, whatever the key points I will discuss here, I will apply with the most recent exam question of financial management. Let's start. First of all, you must have to know that the exam scope of section C is that 20 marks to question, that's the weightage of 40 marks. Number 2, the examiner examine with the syllabus scope either investment appraisal, either business finance, either working capital. So you must have to aware that section C type question, examiner can examine anywhere, including as well with the section C. The objective, the objective of this discussion, it's about from zero to FM hero. Yes, the scope of discussion. The discussion scope includes, I will provide you the guidance, the smart way about calculation. I will provide you the guidance, the drafting techniques related to theoretical part. I will provide you some analysis, and here I will diagnose the examiner report where we will identify some do's and don'ts. The source material, FM March June 24 exam question and the examiner report. So before starting this question, that's the question we will cover, the question name Gamgee Company. And further, we will not just attempt the question but also diagnose the issues related to section C type question. So before starting this question, I wanted to highlight very key points about conquering. If you really wanted to conquer your financial management section C type question, you have to obey these instructions. You have to obey these instructions. Very important. Number 1, examiner examine with section C both type of questions. Examine both type of questions. Number 1, calculation. Number 2, theory. The important point is that about the calculation, examiner expect you to develop an ability to apply the formula. It's not about just to learn the formula. It's about the application of formula and the techniques of the financial management, formulas and techniques. So here the ability you need to develop, apply the formula and techniques accurately. Number 2, very important, theoretical point. There are two possibilities. There are two categories of question examiner examine. Number 1, discussion and analysis. And number 2, assessing. Discussion and analysis means, for example, for section C type question, for example, examiner mentioned with A1 calculate the above ratios. These are the calculation. But for theoretical part, examiner mentioned using the calculation 1 and 2. Briefly comment and recommend. This category of theoretical question is called discussion and analysis, which required interpret your results, evaluate the options, and make recommendation. This is one type of question. The another type of question examiner examine like this. Assessing your knowledge. Examiner will assess your knowledge of underlying concept and practical implications. Not the knowledge, but practical application as well. For example, here is the case. The concept about Islamic finance. So, concept about Islamic finance is one point examiner examined here. The one part, that is assessing the knowledge. But the another part is that you need to connect with the case that could satisfy Gamgee's company need for the project. That means it's not only knowledge but the practical application. That means, which means that examiner expecting you not just the rote learning. If you just mention the Islamic financing or any other syllabus area of knowledge, you will be able to get limited marks. But also you need to connect with the case. That is called the practical implications. So there are two ways the examiner examine the things about the theory. One is about interpretation of the calculation that's available or you have done with the calculations. Interpret, evaluate, and recommendation. Another point is that testing of the knowledge and practical applications. So first thing is that you are very much clear what the exam you will face. First thing. Now, once you realize that, okay, this is the calculation and this is the theory I will face during exam. So how I become hero to attempt if I wanted to attempt these questions. So these are some rules that you have to follow. Either calculation or either theory. The rule is simple. Your answer must be planned and well structured. What I said, if you really wanted to conquer your exam, if you really wanted to conquer your section C, two things important. Your answer must be planned and must be well structured. Must be planned, must be well structured. If you wanted to become hero, so drill down this point in your brain. Planned and well structured. What is the meaning of the planning and structure? Number one, about the plan. Don't forget the rule of 2080. The examining team recommendation, it's not my recommendation, examining team, FM examining team recommendation that any of the student must have to invest at least 20% time for planning. Make sure whatever the question you are attempting, don't be hurry. Have to invest time 20% for planning. 20% time must have to plan. What does that mean for planning? Number one, the rule, everybody knows that. The rule is that about the time management, you have total 3 hours, that 180 minutes divided by 100 marks, that's 180 minutes for each mark. So, for example, if you are attempting 10 marks question, you have 18 minutes. Make sure that 20% time you have to invest. That's 4 minutes for planning. if you attempt any question and before attempt, if you plan that particular question, your answer reflect that this is actually a solution that student uh, first plan then execute. So don't even think about that I will not plan. You have to plan first. That's important. But sir, if we have 4 minutes for planning, so what we should do during planning? What we should do? Yes, one by one. Plan your answers means two things: reading and brainstorming. RB. Plan means P is equal to RB. Plan your answer means reading, brainstorming. Sir, what is the meaning of reading? Whenever you read the question, examiner mentioned that 3 ingredients you have to consider while you're reading the question. Number one, make sure you have clearly understand the requirement. U stand for understand the requirement. R stand for read the context. Understand the requirement carefully. Read the details of the question, context of the question carefully, and highlight the core points. So whenever you're reading the question, number one, make sure you have read the requirement carefully. Make sure you have read the context carefully, and you have highlighted the core points. Number two, once you have read it, don't attack. Don't attack. Before attack, you have to brainstorm. Brainstorm. Either calculation, either theory. Brainstorm means compose your mind. That is what is about the question. If something about drafting, highlight the key points, identify the key points. If there is some calculation, develop the structure in your mind, or either develop your structure in the scratch card or your spreadsheet. So our raw thoughts you need to develop first. Our raw thoughts. Once you develop the raw thoughts, automatically if you execute the question, the mind will automatically run or compose accordingly. Brainstorming simple means develop your mindset before execution. So first answer, if you really wanted to become hero, first must have to plan your question. 20% time you need to invest for reading and brainstorming. Number two, whenever you execute or practice your questions, your answer must reflect well structured. For well structured. What is the meaning of structured? Well structured, sir. For calculation, your main answer must be in a structured way. Whatever you compose during brainstorm, show all relevant workings and use all spreadsheet functions. For example, if you are doing the NPV, structure means the main table at one side, the main table of NPV is one side, right hand side is your workings. For example, working for contribution, working for tax savings from capital allowance, working for working capitals. So number one, main body is a structure, right hand side is working, and proper label the working. For example, main table is mentioned that working capital, working 3. So examiner quickly identify the working 3, right hand side is about working capital. So that is called structure, main working, and show all workings. Number 3, use all spreadsheet functions, either for NPV, for IRR, all spreadsheet functions. That is called present your calculation, well structure. About theory, all the things I will do, I will work out. Whatever I'm saying here, I will apply with a particular question. Don't worry. For theory questions, use logical structure. Clear headings. Avoid jargons. Avoid bullet points. And always start with the paragraph. Number one, whatever examiner asks, your theory must be structured. That structure means, what is the theory about? Structure means first you mention the knowledge. First thing is about knowledge, then application. For example, examiner asking about the Islamic finance and application. What you should do first? Initial start with the basic knowledge and save your marks. 1 mark for knowledge and 1 mark for application. So logical structure means knowledge, then application. Proper headings. If there are 3 possibilities of the Islamic financing here, so make up clear headings. Murahaba, Sakuk, whatever. Make up clear headings. And whatever you are identified with the key points during brainstorming, present your thoughts in a paragraph format. So whatever I've advised here, I will apply with a case, don't worry. But do remember, if you wanted to conquer your section C type questions and become hero, your answer must be planned and structured. PS, plan structure. Plan rule 2080. 20 means reading, brainstorming. Well structure means calculations, theory, both well structured. Calculation, main body, relevant workings, spreadsheet functions. Theory, logical structure. First, always start with the easy words about the knowledge. Headed answers. Logical structure means first knowledge, then application, and organize your thoughts and write with the paragraphs. That's a point. Some very important points. Your answer for calculation. Don't just present for theoretical. Don't just present numbers, but explain your calculations and their implications. Don't just throw knowledge. Avoid rote learning. Justify your answer. Justify means application. Don't worry, I will apply all these things here. First, I am going to attempt a question, number 1, and then once again I will read that particular sheet. Now come on. It's time to discuss a question. So students, you really wanted to become hero. So be with me. This is a question. Let's practice the question and work out accordingly. First of all, what you should do? If, for example, if you are sitting in the examination hall and you face that particular question, what you should do first? First, read the requirement and develop your mindset what is about the question. Here mentioned, calculate the above 3 ratios for the next year. Assuming project is financed by loan notes, option 1. Calculate the above 3 ratios for the next years, once again, assuming the project is financed by the rights issue. Total 8 marks questions. And using the calculations 1 and 2, briefly comment on the result and recommend which source of finance board of directors should choose. So number one, the theoretical point, that's comment, and number two, recommend. Comments and recommend. There are two requirements here. Commenting on the above and make a recommendation. If you just comment and don't recommend, the answer will not come. Okay, this is what about the first phase of the question. Out of 20 marks, here is 4, 4, 4. That is 11 marks. What's next? Something more. Discuss the problems associated with high levels of financial gearing. High levels of financial gearing. High levels, here some mistake of some typo error here. No worries. Problems associated with high levels of financial gearing. Okay, that's theoretical, that's 5 marks. More. Something more here. Discuss two sources of finance, Islamic finance, that could satisfy Gamgee's need for the project. Would satisfy Gamgee's need for the project. That's 4 marks. Taken into account the board's condition. So that is about this question. This question I will attempt, and not only attempt, but also apply all the advices I've shared with you. Number one, about calculation, about theory, both, and also we will diagnose the examiner report as I committed earlier. Yes. Now come on. Read the question. First, requirement. Now it's time to read the content. This scenario relates to 5 requirements. Okay, that's we have already read. Gamgee is a large listed company. Okay, that which has a diverse range of operations. Current information about Gamgee company is as follows. That's current year operating profit forecast. That's current year operating profit. That's not about the next year's. That's current year operating profit, but forecast. So maybe the income statement not yet completed. That's why they say that they are forecasting. But this is current year. 177 million. Debt 6% bank loan. 450 million. Equity number of shares in millions 800 million. Corporate tax rate 20%. Current EPS 0.15. Interest cover 6.6 times. Current interest cover is given. P ratio 8 times. Total gearing measured debt over debt plus equity using market values. Debt over debt plus equity market values 32.3%. So EPS given here, interest cover given here, gear also given here for the current year. Growth in profit has declined in recent years. Gamgee's company large institutional shareholders are insisting that the board of directors undertake an expansion plan. Okay, so that means some investment, they have some expansion plan, so definitely they require some finance. And this, till now we have observed that this question is about something business finance. So expansion plan. The board of directors has developed a plan which involves a project requiring $360 million initial investment, earning an annual profit of 64.8 million. So number one, the funding required 360 million. The funding required 360 million, and the annual operating profit will increase by 64.8 million. Students, you know very well, either the finance from debts or either the finance from equity. If the examiner mentioned that annual profit will increase by 64.8 million, so either of the finance, the operating profit will increase by 64.8 million, because operating profit is irrespective from where you arrange the finance, either debts or either equity. Okay. Expansion finance. GAMKI does not have a sufficient cash to finance the project. Therefore, two financing options under consideration. Option 1, issue of 5% loan notes for 10 years, and that is about debt finance, expected to trade at nominal value. Option 2, rights issue at a 25% discount to the current share price, that is equity finance. Whenever finance option is chosen, the following are to be assumed. The finance will be raised and investment undertaken in a time for a project to be operational for the start of next year. So we will assume that the finance will arrange and the project will be executed by start of next year, and the P ratio will remain unchanged. These are two assumptions. Okay. Now, to aid its decision regarding finance option to select, the board of directors wishes to see the impact of each financing option on the following three ratios of the next years. Once again, to aid the decision regarding the finance option select, board of directors wishes to see the impact of financing options following ratios of the next 3 years. Interest cover, EPS, gearing. First of all, you have to recall interest cover ratio. Interest cover ratio. Interest cover ratio. What is the interest cover ratio? Formula is, that is, interest cover is equal to PBIT divided by interest. So you need to recall EPS, very simple. EPS is equal to profit after tax divided by shares, number of shares. That's very basic. Gearing, debt over debt plus equity, but important is market value base. Here, market value base. Now, calculate once again. Start reading the question form requirement, then read the context carefully. Read the context carefully, highlight the important point, and once again read the requirement and make sure you understand the requirement carefully. You have already understand the requirement. Make sure. First, calculate the three ratios for next year, assuming project is financed by loan notes. 4 marks. Examiner very regular examined with the past papers with this type of questions. So here we need to calculate the ratio based on debt finance. A1. Calculate above three ratios for the next year, assuming project is financed by rights issue for equity, option 2. 4 marks. Using the calculation 1, 2, briefly comment. Briefly comment. Comment means interpret your result. Comment means interpret and evaluate and recommend which source of finance GAMKI board of directors should choose. You need to mention here the recommendation. That's 3 marks. So A3 having 2 requirements, comments and final wordings about recommendation. Okay, what about the next one? Whatever the content here, discuss the problems associated with high level of financial gearing. Problems associated with high level of financial gearing. 5 marks question. Last point. Here added some description. You have to read it. In recent board meetings, the use of Islamic finance was mentioned as being another possible finance source as the nature of the project. And all GAMKI's activities are eligible under Islamic finance principles or Sharia compliance. The board wishes to consider use of Islamic finance, but a condition. The board has agreed in that any Islamic finance arrangement should be similar to traditional debts with no profit sharing or management involvement from investor or Islamic bank. So this highlighted point is about the context. And here 4 marks discuss two sources of Islamic finance. And that could satisfy the Gamgese company need for project taken into account the board condition. What board condition? These are the board conditions. So here, if we just recommend two sources of finance but contradict with the condition attached by the condition attached by the board, so our answer become wrong. We not just to mention two Islamic source of finance, but also the finance of also make suggestion of Islamic financing mode, which having the characteristics that's about no profit sharing or no management involvement. No management involvement from the investor or the Islamic bank. So that is the point. So we have read the requirement. Ideally, based on discussion, you have identified that how to read the question carefully. Ask yourself, have you identified the requirement? Have you understand the requirement very carefully? Yes. Have you missed any point during the reading of the context of the question? No. Everything is clear. Okay. Now it's time to attempt the question. But before attempting the question, what you should do? First point, planned. First point is about planning. So during planning, what you have done, that's reading you have done. That's a reading you have done. Now the next point is brainstorming. Now come on. Ideally, students start the questions with calculation. Okay, no worries about that. You have to start with the calculation. So the calculation part, A1 and A2, very important here. A1 and A2 here. Let's start with the A1 and A2. What is this about A1 and A2? Okay, before starting the question, you have to brainstorm the plan. That's how you will execute your working. In a manner, the working of the calculation must be well structured, referred by any workings if required, and use the spreadsheet functions. And plan your structure first. Sir, plan your structure first means I strongly suggest first you have to brainstorm the point that A1 and A2. For A1 and A2, the requirement both about the calculation of the ratios. So what we need to think about it. For example, for interest cover, we require the PBIT, profit before interest and tax. And for EPS, we require profit after tax. So here the question is available about the PBIT, and the PBIT will increase with a certain amount, then interest, then tax, then profit after tax. So this is some type of projected income statement. If it's something about projected income statement, this is what about the brainstorming, projected income statement. That means we need to work out with a spreadsheet, making some columns. Like now data is available, debt finance, and equity finance. Instead of doing debt and finance in a separate working, why not to develop a working in a smart way? Projected income statement with the two columns, and then more workings, for example shares, for example debts, for example equity, and then calculate the ratios. That's very simple. Further, I must say here, you have, this is what about a raw thought. Okay, I will execute the question in this manner. Before start the question, have to develop your mindset up. Talk to your brain, talk to yourself about this. Number one. Number two, the structure answer. What's the structure of the answer? Here the structure of the answer is very clear, and the structure is the ratios. The structure is ratios. So if you are going to attempt this question, sorry. So I personally suggest how to develop the structure. You need to develop the structure in this way. Very simple. Very simple. This should be the structure. These are three ratios that need to calculate. Now data is available. We need to calculate these data. That's all. First of all, you need to develop the structure, what you should do. Then fill the data accordingly. Now data is given. Now data is given here. You just need to write here. Now data is given. That is current interest cover 6.6 times, earning per share and P ratio. Now you need to calculate. For the sake of the calculation, what you should do? Make a working. Very simple. For example, this is the working. One by one, we need to discuss here. First thing is about the profit PBIT. PBIT, that's available now is 177. And what is this about? Is equal to D7 plus 64.8. What is the 64.8? This is 64.8. PBIT in both cases remains same. That's a loan notes, debt finance and the equity finance. Now the interest cost minus 27. How to calculate minus 27? Currently 450 million loan multiplied by 6%. That's 0.06. Very simple. In the case of loan notes, the new finance is 360 million. The new finance is 360 million. 360 multiplied by 5%. So is equal to minus 27. 360 multiplied by 0.05. Why I mention here minus, minus become plus. So that's become minus 45. So here minus 27 and minus 360 into 0.05. So here the value minus 45. For equity rights issue, that there will be no change of the interest, remains same. After that, that's profit before tax, and then simple calculation of the profit after tax. Sorry, that's a simple calculation of the taxation. That's minus 30. Just apply the 20% of this 150 and all these things. Smartly calculate. Smart calculate means, for example, If 150 into 0.2 and here the minus, that is minus 30. Control C, control. Once again, sir, once again, is equal to 150 multiplied by 20%, that's minus. That is minus 30. Control C, control B. Use the shortcuts. That's 39.36, 49. After that, you have to calculate all these points one by one. That is profit after tax, simple, the sum. Then profit after tax, you need to work out for the shares. 800 shares, so from where you identify the shares? 800 shares. For debt finance, the shares remain same. For equity finance, you have to calculate the number of shares. How to calculate the number of shares? It's very simple. Now the market value of share. Listen carefully. Now the market value of share. How to calculate market value of share? Number one, first of all, first debts, market value of debts. Here simple, debts 450 million. No data of market value, that means book value equal to market value, 450 million. Number one. Now, equity, that's market value. How to calculate equity? How to calculate equity? It's very simple. Here there is no information about market value of share, but here the P ratio is given. So what I have done here, take out the 120 as a profit after tax, multiply by 8, that is 8 times. That means 960 equity value. Debts plus equity is equal to debt plus equity. Market value of shares. How to calculate per share value? That's 800 divided by 960 equity value divided by 100. 960 divided by 100. That is 1 point. So you have to connect with the cell. Then right issue price. Here mention the right issue price is 25% discount. So 25% discount means 1.2 into 0.7. That's 25% discount. If we identify the right issue discount, that's all done. Then what we should do? 800 shares, number of shares, 800 shares, number of shares. Here 800 shares plus the finance we required. Now we are calculating the number of shares. No? The finance we required here is 360 million. 360 million total finance divided by per share offer. Per share offer is not 1.2. Per share offer is 0.9. So here is equal to 1200 divided by 0.9. Sorry. Is equal to 360 divided by 0.9. That is 400. So is equal to 800 plus this 400 equals to 12. This is the number of shares. This is the number of shares. Shares, debts. This is shares. This is debts. What about the debts? 450. Now 810 total debts. Sir, how to calculate 810? Very simple. 360 plus 450. 810. Here the debts remain same because here the equity finance. Total equity value. Now come on, equity value. Equity value will calculate by P ratio. Because here assumption says that P ratio remain unchanged. So very simple. Profit after tax multiply by P ratio. Same case, profit after tax divided by P ratio. Now it's about total debts and equity. Sorry. Total debts and equity. Once you calculate all supportive working, these are all workings. Now you will be able to calculate simple interest cover. How to calculate interest covers? PBIT divided by interest. Once again, is equal to PBIT divided by interest. Put the sign of minus. 5.37. And just apply Control C, Control V. Use this spreadsheet function. Use this spreadsheet function. That's a point. And same what I've done accordingly. Earning per share, how to calculate earning per share? According to the formula. That's profit after tax divided by shares. Profit after tax divided by shares. Debt over debt plus equity with the percentage. Debts 810 divided by debt plus equity 2069. Debts 450 divided by debt plus equity. That's a point. So that is what about the logical structure. Now, what I did suggest you, make a reference. For calculation, your answer must be structured. Structured. Is our answer is structured? Yes, absolutely right. This is what about the ratios the examiner required. These about the workings. Structure way. Structure, show all workings and spreadsheet functions. So do practice the question in this way. Structure, workings, spreadsheet functions. Students, if you are working manually, I'm sorry to say that, you will not be able to prepare for the exam. So you will not become able to conquer the exam. You have to practice the questions with the spreadsheet, not in Microsoft Excel. All latest exam question on CB format. And apply this rule. Structure main workings, show all relevant workings, and try to start with the working of a spreadsheet functions. Do with this manner. One more thing, very important. Whatever I have done here, that's absolutely according to the marking scheme. I haven't done anything extra. For example, if you have calculated the interest cover, that's you become able to get 1 mark. For EPS, you will become able 1 mark. For gearing ratio, 1 mark. Further, total 8 marks here. For interest cost calculation of interest cost only, that you will be able to get 0.5 marks, especially this 45, because this 27 remain unchanged. To calculate the profit after tax means after profit after interest, these two steps, profit before tax and taxation, you will be able to get 1 mark. 1 mark. For the calculation of the number of shares, whatever we have done for this 1200, that's you will be able to get 0.5 mark. Equity, 1 mark. Market value of share, 1 mark. Right issue price, 25% discounted value, 0.5 mark. That's total 8 marks. You can count, huh? Don't worry, I will share you this spreadsheet details by copy paste with an Excel sheet, and I will share with you. Don't worry about that. That's a point. There is a question in your mind. Maybe a question that's very important. Sir, what if one of the calculation we did wrong, and next phase something the structure we have one of the calculation we have done wrong, but other part of the calculation the structure is right with respect to our answer. Or I'm going to rephrase my answer, or rephrase the question. What if any one step become wrong, all the other numeric answer become wrong? So will the student become able to get marks? To remember two important things. Number one, for section C type questions. Number one, there's a rule called OFR, own figure rule, which means that, for example, if any of the student by mistake, if any of the student has made the mistake with interest cover, has made the mistake with interest cover. Okay, the student will lose the marks of the 0.5. But after that, rest of the question has become right with the structure element. Examiner will assume the wrong figure and check rest of the answers. If rest of the answer based on that wrong working is correct with the procedural matter, with other aspects, you will get all marks. That is called own figure rule. This is a golden rule, students. This is a golden rule. Nothing happened in this manner. Huh? If you attempt wrong with the first or there are 10 steps and you attempt something wrong with the third step, so examiner will cut all the remaining seven steps. No, examiner will assume the wrong figure of the third step, and based on that assumption, check the rest of the answer. If the rest of the answer based on the wrong working, it's correct with the procedural aspects, you will get all the marks for the remaining part. You will only lose the one error or one mistake that you did. That's the point. So it's very clear. Huh? Now, with this particular question, we need to diagnose the examiner report. Now, come on. Sir, why we are diagnosing the examiner report? One purpose. First of all, we will not read the 100% examiner report, but just the highlighted main points. The purpose to refer this particular examiner report is that you have to aware about the psychology of the examining team, number one, and identify the do's and don'ts. Okay, number one, examiner mention here. There are few things to consider before tackling this part. Okay, what few things? The information provided the information provided needs to read carefully and understood. Have you done that? Yes. It is worth remembering that information is provided for a purpose. Information is provided for purpose. You cannot ignore the information in the question to assist in answering of the question. So read requirement and context very carefully. Have we done that? Yes. Number 2, break down the requirement. Break down the requirement. There are 3 ratios to calculate under both the loan notes issue part A and 3 ratios under the rights. Okay. Presentation. Calculation are required, so consideration must be given how they are presented. Both options will mean new figures will be needed to be in income statement. A suggestion as how they should be presented appears below. It is important all working are shown. Whatever the presentation that we have done, the important thing is that all working should be shown. Further point is about theory. This is the next part of the session. But about the calculation we have covered. But one thing we need to read here about theory, verbs used in requirement for A2. It's very important. Verbs are important. Briefly comment and recommend. So there are 2 things. Comment, recommend. Based on the calculation issues. And suitable comment and just recommendation can be made. So I will cover this point, don't worry. I'll let just a couple of minutes after. Just after the couple of minutes. So this is what about the calculation we have done. Here examiner particularly mentioned use the spreadsheet function, all we have done. Some highlighted point. One of the point. Efficient use of a spreadsheet cell will enable the recalculation of profit before tax. Taxation 20%, profit after tax. Efficient use. That's Control C and Control V. Efficient use. If you do practice in this manner, you will become the master. If you do practice the spreadsheet, you will become the master and save your time. Don't do practice manually. Do practice with spreadsheet and apply the spreadsheet function. Some of the students do a blunder. For example, if they are working with a spreadsheet, first calculate with a calculator and then plot the figure on the spreadsheet. Don't do this. It's not recommended. It's highly not recommended. For example, if you do any of the calculation, for example, if you calculation for this finance cost, minus 45, you just do this minus 45 with your calculator and put the figure on the spreadsheet. And by mistake, by chance, you were right, but actually you were made some mistake as a casting error on your calculator, and you just mentioned, or you have calculated rightly on the calculator, but during the typing you just mentioned minus 42. So if you mention something minus 42, it's nothing the record here. How the examining team, how the marker will identify this figure? Will the examiner will call you or email you? Please tell me how you identified that 42 figure instead of 45, minus 45. But if you do something with the spreadsheet function, it's particular mention on the cell. It's particular mention on cell. And if you have made some mistake, marker will identify the concepts and evaluate the situation if it's about the conceptual or casting error. You will be able to get the marks as well. So don't practice the things in a manner, just calculate with a calculator and just copy, just put the value directly on a spreadsheet. Highly not recommended. Okay. Next point. Some complaint by the examiner. It's very much important. Some candidates did not calculate profit after tax. They did not calculate profit after tax. Therefore, could not score the marks for EPS. The calculation of EPS using operating profit, some of the student has at F9 level, they applied wrongly. That's calculated the EPS by PBIT divided by number of shares. That's wrong. So be careful. EPS is about profit after tax. This examiner reports is about the mistake have done by the students, but for you people who are attempting the question, be careful. Further, some candidates did not realize EPS figure was required in the calculation in market value of equity and incorrectly assumed the market price per share would be unchanged. Wrong. Here the clue available, the P ratio. That's P ratio remains same, but earning per share become changed. Huh? So if earning per share become changed, the P ratio maintains, so price of the shares become changed. That's a point. So that is about the calculation part. Last point here. Then we will move to the theoretical part. So yes, some candidates did not calculate profit after tax and therefore could not score the marks of EPS. To restate the calculation of EPS, operating profit is technically incorrect. That's point already have covered. So finally, students, we have covered the calculation part of the section C. So what are the highlighted point here? If first of all, for calculation part of section C, the rule is 2080. Read the requirement context very carefully and highlighted the key points. Brainstorm first for any topic, either for business finance, including this type question, including NPV or the working capital. Brainstorm, that's compose your mind, and then first compose your mind to sketch the answer, the calculation sketch, and then attempt. Whenever you are attempting the answer, your answer must be well structured. That means main calculation, relevant workings, show the relevant workings, and use the spreadsheet function. Okay, this is about the calculation part. So candidates, I suggest take a 2 minutes break here. Then I will start the session after 2 minutes. And first we will cover the section C, theoretical type question. Thank you. Welcome back once again. So financial management students, the session name 0 to FM Hero, and I hope that you are getting a valuable information. But the point is that whatever information or advices you are getting here, you have to apply for the rest of the questions. Now, with this part of the session, let's start to make a discussion about the theoretical part of the section C. Theoretical part of section C. Whatever I did suggest you with this slide, now I'm going to apply these things with a particular question that's called Gamgi company. So let's start with the part A of the question, part A3. So using the calculation from 1 and 2, briefly comment on the results and recommend which source of finance Gamgi company board of directors should choose. So, okay, first of all, ask yourself, have you clearly understand the requirement? Yes. First of all, we need to make a comment. Number 2, make a recommendation. The context we have already read. That's above. All the things accordingly. Now it's time to attempt the question. But you know very well, either the calculation, either the theory. First of all, you must have to make a plan, and then develop a well-structured answer. First of all, planning. About the theoretical part, about the theoretical part, how you will plan your answer. Now listen carefully. First of all, you must have to aware that this is 3 marks question, and based on the allocated time, you have 6 minutes. Make sure you have to apply 20% time for planning. Planning includes the reading and understanding, reading the requirement and the context, and understanding the requirement. That's examiner expectation. Carefully, you have done it. And now the very important point, that is brainstorming. Brainstorming. Here you need to brainstorm. First of all, for 3 marks, how much we need to write? This is a very important discussion. For the marks, how much to write? I know that you have to write your answer according to the marks, but make sure whatever you will write, that's complete. Complete means all the aspects that you need to cover during drafting. With this case, the brainstorming that you need to develop in your mind, the raw sketch in your mind, there are 3 points. 2 points about interpretation and analysis. And interpretation means analysis and evaluations. 1 point of the final recommendation. So actually, what is this case about? The case is about to decide either debt or equity. Either debt finance or equity finance. So 2 points relevant here. Number 1, if we move for the debt finance, financial risk will increase. If, on the other hand, if financial risk increase, that's how to compensate to the equity holder. Refer to the solution, whatever you have done it. Refer to the solution. Now position is this. That's interest covers 0.6. That's ability to pay interest 0.6 times. If we arrange the finance, the ability to pay the interest become reduced. But if we move to the right shoe, ability to pay interest increase. About that interest cover, that is risk. Gearing is about also risk. If we move to the loan notes, the debt ratio become increase. If we move towards right shoe, debt ratio become decrease. So interest cover and gearing, it's about the risk. But on the other hand, earning per share is about return. If loan notes having higher gearing, lower ability to pay interest, but with the debt finance, the earning per share is higher as compared to the equity finance. So very clearly, higher the risk of financial risk, higher the return. Although equity finance, lower the financial risk, but on the other hand, lower the return. In fact, through rights issue, our earning per share, it's become reduced as compared to previous or as compared to now. So this is important for the interpretation. Now the point is that, sir, how to portray the things with drafting? How to portray the thing? with drafting. Once again, the raw thought is that there is that the discussion is about the trade-off between two: risk and return, risk and return, risk and return, risk and shareholder wealth, return, risk and return, risk, return, and make our recommendation. You just not only interpret analysis, but also make a final recommendation. Now let's refer the suggested answer. Here is the answer that I have made for the students. Now, how you will draft your answer? First of all, very clear heading: the analysis of debt versus equity. So, first statement, it's very you must have to write a first statement in a very simple way. Relax, and first statement is very simple. And with first statement, if you write a simple statement, you will be able to get two benefits. Your confidence will build up, and your momentum will establish to write more. So first statement is: the analysis indicates a potential trade-off for Gamgee company between financial risk and shareholder wealth. You can use your own wordings, but try to draft the answer in a manner to incorporate the name of the company. So this will portray that something about application, number one. So start with a very simple statement and incorporate the name of the company. And stick your original plan. Original plan means whatever brainstorm you have, whatever you have done at the time of brainstorm. Now execute accordingly. Make heading number one: financial risk. With this type of question about the ratio and all these things, the very simple tool you need to use is to start with interpretation. Interpretation means just interpret the maths. Just interpret the maths. But don't ignore. You not just interpret. The first statement is interpretation. But the other hand, you have to evaluate the situation as well. For example, here financial risk, you mentioned that with the debt finance, with the loan note option increase, Gamgee financial risk increase the gearing to 38.28% from 32.3%. Interest cover fall to 5.4 from 6.5. That's the first statement. Simple interpretation. Next statement, that's evaluation. The increased risk might be significant and undesirable to the shareholder. And here the industry average for comparison is unavailable due to Gamgee's diverse operations. This one more line examiner expecting that you need to show your ability, demonstrate your ability that I can apply the knowledge accordingly. I can evaluate the things. It's not only about the rote learning. Ratios interpretation, it's rote learning. But this statement is it's your demonstration, that's application. Number two, shareholder wealth. However, loan notes also result large increase in shareholder wealth compared to rights issue, primarily driven by higher EPS. You can refer the number as well. I know my solution, it's not reflecting the number, but you can refer the number. That's a rights issue increase to 0.2 as compared to 0.5, and compared to rights issue, it's higher. But do remember, it's only 3 marks. You just draft your answer to complete the things accordingly. And don't ignore the final recommendation. The final recommendation. You cannot ignore the final recommendation. This is the final recommendation. You cannot ignore. Final choices need to weigh the risk and reward. It depends on the behavior. But here examiner mentioned you need to recommend, make a recommendation. So you have to recommend. And here the recommendation is very clear. We cannot go for rights issue because with the rights issue, earning per share become decrease. What we will show to the shareholder. Here the winner if you compare the loan notes with the rights issue, all the loan notes, the increase in gearing, but also the earning per share become increases. Therefore, shareholders are willing to accept the evaluated financial risk. Loan notes issue is recommended course of action. Recommended course of action. Don't use the word must have to, should have to. No. Use some diplomacy based on the information available. If shareholder accept the higher risk, the loan note is the recommended action course of action. That's a problem. So once again, I must ask a question here. Before attempting this part, did we plan? Yes. Our answer is well structured with respect to theory. That is a logical structure. Yes. Here logical structure, risk versus returns. That's structure. Clear headings, and it's not about the bullet points. It's a para to organize. It's a para to organize the things. That's a point. Now, come on. Another point. Sorry. Rest two parts of this question. Rest two parts of this question. Rest two parts. Discuss the problems associated with high level of financial gearing. Problems associated with high level of financial gearing. This is very regular examinable question based on the past paper analysis. Now come on. Yes. This is, sorry, the 5 marks question. This is the 5 marks. This is the 5 marks. 5 marks question, number 1. So time allocated 9 minutes. Very committed, 20% of the time. It's about reading, understanding the requirements. It's very straightforward, but brainstorming here. You have to invest 9 multiplied by 20%. That's at least 2 minutes here, 2 minutes. 2 minutes you have to apply to brainstorm. Identify the problems. Sir, for 5 marks, how many points we need to write? I must suggest 3 to 4 points. And the characteristics of the points that's mentioned above. Well structured. Yes. Not the bullet points. Yes. And not about. And you have to show the clear headings. Logical structure, clear headings, and para formats. Now come on. Very simple. If we need to decide the debt and equity finance, and if move towards the debt finance, the risk of the higher financial risk is about the bankruptcy. Yes, one key point. That's if we move toward the debts, the company is not able to pay interest in the principal. Increase in required return of the equity and debt holder, that is finance cost. Tax exhaustion if interest level is more than the taxable profit or tax allowable threshold, you will not be able to get any tax benefits from interest. Debt capacity, if interest debts level become increases, maybe your tax debt capacity become exhaust. Agency cost, maybe some covenants attached by the debt holder, and one of the covenant may be about a dividend payout, restriction of the dividend payout or dividends. So this may create a conflicts between the shareholder and the company's management. These are the 4-5 points, but you need to write for 3 to 4 points. 4 points. Now, very important thing here, very structured. This type of question, automatically you will answer the question. It's automatically become the structure. Clear headings, bankruptcy, no bullet points. Whatever you have developed in your mind during the brainstorming, you have to portray. You have to portray means first sentence is to explain. High debt means high interest and high repayments. Even the times have become difficult. First statement, the meaning of bankruptcy. Second statement, how this will become the difficulty. The increased risk, not being able to interest and payments and going bankrupt. So complete your statements. Increased finance cost. High debt makes dividend payout riskier. Shareholder demand higher returns, that cost of equity, and debt holder also worried about that and charge more interest. So that means KD, KE both increase. So just get one idea and explain the things accordingly. So this is about the second phase of this part. Before moving forward, I wanted to cover the examiner report here for both points. Both point means, number one, the comments we have covered. So what examiner report says here, what examiner report highlights the areas here. So whatever the comment and recommend we covered previously, here examiner mentioned. Number one, examiner mentioned better response will contrast the increase in financial risk under loan note issue due to interest cover and high gearing with increased shareholder wealth. Compare it. So the same thing we have done it. A comparison could then be made with some financial indicators when projects finance using the ratio of equity. Same thing we have done. A justified recommendation could be based upon comments show clearly the source of finance should be chosen. Here examiner mentioned, show clearly, make a recommendation. Which there are some good comments and recommendation. But the highlighted point is this. Too many candidates simply did not enough for the 3 marks. In many comments were simply mentioned the ratios had grown up and down it without stating it was good or bad for the company, thereby failing to demonstrate FM knowledge. Avoid rote learning. First mention the knowledge and then connect with the case. Incorporate some points. Then you will be able to show the demonstration about yes, it's FM. One more thing. too many gave one line answer. State in time based on ratio, they should pick loan notes or write should without any justification or further explanation. So your final comments must be based on some upper discussion. That is logical structure. Logical structure means start your answer very simple. Make headings here for financial list, shareholder returns, interpret your answer, add one more line, and then conclude. Several responses incorrectly recommend both options when choice was recommended. So be careful about that. Now, about the high level financial gearing, what examiner says. About the high level financial gearing, what examiner says. Marks were awarded on the basis of 1 mark per valid point. Given the wording of the requirement, problems, the verb here, problems, it was expected that more than one problem would be discussed. 3 to 4 problems. First thing is that you have to show the problems and more than one problems. Okay. As per the suggested solution, any problem identified needed to be discussed in order to gain full marks. For example, if we mention increase in finance cost was identified as problem. So not just to identify problem. Here verb use discuss. A discussion similar to shareholder will view dividend payout as in a highly geared company as risky. Profit would be consumed, high level of interest would be regarded as a valid point. Once again, our solution. Increase in finance cost is identification problem. But you need to explain the thing. How this problem will affect to the high level companies. You have to justify your answer. That's a point. Weaker response. Weaker response did not develop points in a manner suggested above or gave a brief answer. Such a list of short points when a discussion was required. Some answer did not. So the first point is it actually means avoid answering the question with bullet points. Identify the problems, make heading and make a para. Portray your idea. Some answers did not directly address the requirement. Irrelevant answers. For example, just coverage, theory of capital structure, and therefore could only gain the high gearing aspects. Be relevant. Be relevant. Number one, your answer must be relevant according to the context. And if you identify the answer, you have to make a structure answer. That's a point. So next point, very much important. So if you really wanted to become hero of this particular exam and conquer this exam, especially here we are discussing the section C, it's not difficult. Just obey these advices and apply with the recent past paper exams. Rather than focus on quantity, focus on quality. Okay. Discuss 2 sources of finance that could satisfy Gamgee company's need for the project. Need to take into account the board's conditions. What's the board conditions? They wanted to move for the Islamic finance, But the condition is that board has agreed that Islamic finance arrangement should be similar to trade debts, where no profit sharing, just like interest, and management involvement, and no management involvement. That's no involvement of investor or Islamic bank. So you need to develop your answer of the two sources of finance which having the same characteristics. So number one, two source of finance means each source of finance having 2 marks. For example, first source of finance of Islamic finance. Number one, first having 2 marks. 1 mark to explain it, second mark for the justification. That's this finance, it's not, sorry, this finance recommendation is parallel with the board recommendation. So this this finance, just like traditional debts, not affect to the profit sharing, and not in, there will be no involvement of the investor or Islamic bank. Now come on. Yes. Number one, 5 marks question. I'm sorry. This is 4 marks question. I'm sorry. This is 4 marks question. I'm sorry. 20% time. 20% time you need to invest for the planning. Planning includes read. You have read it. Okay. Brainstorm. Brainstorm. 2 relevant points and identify the suitable finance according to board condition. Here I have highlighted there. So you need to think in this manner. There are multiple sources of finance, Islamic financing, like Mudarba, Musharka, Murhaba, Ijara, Sukuk, but you cannot refer Mudarba and Musharka. That's not suit with these conditions. Because Mudarba and Musharka, Islamic financing, investor will involve with the profit sharing and also involved with the decision making activities of the investor. But you can refer for Murhaba, Ijara, and Sukuk, any two. Any two, just take out any two, and 1 mark is simple as a rote learning, that's knowledge. Second part, application. Application here, how this is relevant to the case. Number one, Murhaba, that is trade credit. The IFI, Islamic financing institutions, you need to explain, buy the assets and sell to the company. So you must have to aware about that. This is Murhaba. With Murhaba, bank or Islamic financing institutions ask to the borrower why you need the money. If investor reply, I wanted to buy a machine, I wanted to expand the operations. So the bank replies, okay, we will buy and sell to you with a higher price, at a higher price, and make some installments, payable in installments. 10 years, same as proposed loan. So this is the recommendation. The first statement is knowledge. Second, you need to connect with the case. Gamgi gains ownership of assets from the outset. Yes, because Islamic finance institution will sell to the Gamgi at the same time, and I has no involvement in the operations, but only have interest of the IFI to get the installments on time. This is Muraba. Same you can write the Ijara. I'm not reading here. Same for Sukuk. That's a point. But I know that examiner asks any two, so you can refer for any two. Huh? Very important. The question, another past paper question, Graphim Company, featured by Islamic Finance. But note that Graphim required a discussion about Mudarba and Musharka. So if you attempt this question and simultaneously attempt the graphing question, plus read the article, so you will be able to understand very precisely about the Islamic finance. The two types of Islamic finance not required in the Gamgee circumstances. Nonetheless, the two questions taken together with the technical article introduction to the Islamic finance available as a financial management article are all used to future candidates. So that's one key point. Let's come out. Let's diagnose the examiner report as well. Yes, what examiner report says that we have already covered Mudarba and Musharaka types are not suitable here. Yes, some specific points. There are 4 marks available of 2 sources of finance. As per suggested solution, each relevant source needed to describe correctly for 1 mark and discuss in the context why source has been selected given by the board for the 2nd mark. Very clear. Understanding of the requirement is very important. 1 mark for knowledge, 1 mark why important? Application of the case. We have done accordingly. I'm not reading this paragraph. Another point. Too many candidates did not develop this point in a manner suggested above and gave a brief answer as simply stating 2 types of Islamic finance, often just 2 words when a discussion was required. These are don'ts. We don't need to do that. Further, some answers discussed in Islamic finance more general manner, such as discussion about eligibility of the business activities. The case that the Gamgee's proposed activities are eligible and discussion about the prohibition of the payment of interest. Irrelevant answer. Neither of these points address the requirement. Be relevant. That's important. Relevant answer according to the requirement. Don't mention any unnecessary. I must say here, for calculation, the part of calculations, avoid unnecessary working. Only attempt relevant working according to the marking scheme. Same for the theory. Ignore irrelevant points. Here, examiner asking about suggest about the Islamic finance according to the case. You are mentioning the interest is prohibited. Is this halal or haram? So this is not the point. So you must be relevant. So this session, with this session, we have covered the section C type question. We have covered. And further about the session related to section A and B part, wait for the next video. Otherwise, this video will become very extensive. I will make another video of that. But we have covered the section C type questions. How to cover the section C type questions. Lastly, I must say here, I hope that you have identified a very key points. I must say one more time, whenever you are attempting section C type question, and if you really wanted to conquer and wanted to become hero, first of all, you have to obey my instruction that do attempt question with the CV format. Number 2, with exam conditions. Number 3, your answer must reflect a planned answer and well-structured answer according to calculation or theory. Plan means in 2080 rule, which includes reading and brainstorming. Reading means clearly understand the requirement, read the context and highlight the core point. Avoid unnecessary workings for calculation, avoid unnecessary draft for theory. For brainstorming, compose your mind. For calculation theory, both. Compose your mind. Don't be hurry. Plan your answer. Identify key points. Then attack. Your answer must reflect as well-structured and professional answer. Either for calculation, that's structure calculation, main calculations, show all data-driven workings, and use spreadsheet functions. For theory, based on requirement in the brainstorming, develop a structure of answer, clearly headed, and portray your ideas in a paragraph. Last key points for theory. Don't just present the numbers. Don't just interpret your numbers, but explain your calculations with applications. Number 2, it's not about rote learning. Show your ability. You have the potential. You are the part of ACCA skill module exam. You have done a lot. You are brilliant. Show your potential. Show your potential. That's you are working for financial management paper. Avoid rote learning. You can do that. Don't just write the knowledge. Apply it. Practice makes the man perfect. And do remember that whatever you wanted to do, first of all, develop your mind, develop your mindset as a human being. Yes, I wanted to do this. If you realize that I wanted to do this, Allah will support you. God will definitely support you. Start working now in this manner. Avoid quantity, quality. Take out the last 4 to 5 semester exam questions, last 4 to 5 semester questions, and do practice in this manner. Irrespectively, that answer become right or wrong, but do practice in this manner. May Allah support you to qualify your exam, inshallah ta'ala. I will make another video for section A and B type question. So keep in touch with me. All the material will be available with the description side of this particular video. Just click the link. You will be able to get the material through the G Drive link. Thank you very much. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.